Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Hello, Brandon.
Well, Angela, what's happening?
I'm getting there.
Getting there?
Yep. So the whole show today, we're going to talk about giving value and using engagement equity when you get sick, because that's what just happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably hear it in my voice. My voice is echoing in my head, so I don't really know how it's coming out on the other end. But
no, you sound good. You sound good
you.
Today. You do.
Thank you. Yeah, after pretty much pretending like COVID wasn't a thing for the past 2 years, because I went everywhere. I didn't really alter my life at all.
Sure.
It finally caught up with me. So me and the husband were pretty much housebound for 2 weeks.
How was Todd's side effects? Like pretty much like yours, or
pretty much the same. They'd kind of switch a little off and on, and he's still like, my tiredness is lingering. I wake up and I just kind of have a burning type.
Ooh.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right.
Sure.
And he's got some sort of stomach thing that's lingering. So
I would take yours over his.
Yeah, stomach isn't good. So yeah, it was, but similar. Yeah, similar. Okay. And I don't know if you've ever been sick with your spouse before, but that ain't easy.
No, one time. And Isabel was like 2. And I remember we had an L-shaped couch and I was on one side, she was on the other. And Isabel was just like playing or something. And we both look at each other just like, this is the worst thing ever.
Fortunately, we don't have small kids, so that wasn't.
You still have
but Todd kind of
kids.
Turns into a small kid when he's sick. And I'm just like,
the man flu.
And I'm just like, too bad. Because
we're doing this together.
Yeah. One of us would kind of pull it together a little bit and like go to the store or, do something for the other one and then fall apart. So anyway, I wanted to make the show about this because I've just been through it and I had some aha moments and just thought it would be a good fit because so many people have gone through this in the past couple of years or are headed for it. Or going to have it again. And it's not just COVID. Obviously, people are still getting other types of sicknesses. So it really can relate to different things, but it's mostly going to be about COVID because it's just different.
I was excited for this because, yes, COVID brought up the conversation, but it's this, I don't know, if you smash your foot and you are used to walking and now you can't, I think some of these things will kind of bring in insight on what you still can do.
Right.
Even though you're a little sick.
You're a little bit sick.
You got a little handicap.
So this new arid of COVID, see, I got the weird brain. I'm saying right weird words. Right. Era, not arid. Arid's a deodorant. It's also how deserts are. Anyway, I think it's so different because people are reacting to it in such different ways. And before COVID, I did not see that. Boy, your opinion of the flu and my opinion of the flu are completely different and we're going to fight about it. And, it didn't happen.
Right.
It just didn't happen. And COVID has been very polarizing, from should you get the vaccination to once you start feeling unwell, should you get tested right away? How long to avoid people? There's so much diversity in thinking about, and people get very, very upset over it. If you don't think the same way as they do, they get very upset over it. People are fighting. Families are falling out. It has really been a very polarizing illness and has really kind of changed the way a lot of people deal with illness.
And what I have found harder are not everyone loses a family member to this sickness, but some have.
Yeah.
And I do feel your opinion, no matter what it is, changes when you lose somebody like that.
I would definitely agree.
And when you don't have that feeling and you're expressing how you feel, it's hitting way harder for them now. And you don't know. You don't know. You don't. And you also don't know what people's... So this is, I'll get into the next point. The big thing with dealing with COVID now, whether you've had it, haven't had it, blah, 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 is use the platinum rule. So instead of... I didn't really care. I went everywhere. I did everything. I showed up to places because that's how I felt about it. Right.
And I have to admit, I wasn't all that compassionate or understanding of people who are super, super fearful of it.
Yep. I'm there with you. Yep.
But again, you don't know. Did they lose somebody? Are they compromised in some way that if they got it, it could mean something,
like, they're dead.
It could be really, really bad. And, I saw it in kind of a peripheral sort of way. My friend's mother got it, and she had some dementia, and it nearly killed her. Like, she was on hospice. Like, she brought her mother home to die.
Wow. And
she recovered.
Oh.
She recovered.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but now she still lives with them, and that kind of didn't go the way they thought. But she did recover. Obviously, her dementia is still there, and it probably worsened it.
Yeah.
But that, it's like, wow, this is really killing people, or has the potential to kill people. I'm young-ish, in good health. It didn't scare me to get it.
Right.
But, but then I would think of things, like the, obesity, age, asthma, all those things. And kids weren't getting it. And so it really, or if they did get it, didn't really do much to them.
Right.
Made me start thinking, what if this was something that was targeting kids and was killing kids? I certainly would have thought of it very, 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 very differently. Because I have kids. They're in the house. I love them dearly. My parents, at that point, I did lose my dad, but it was not COVID related at all. They were healthy enough that it didn't seem to be a big deal. If they got it, they probably would have been okay.
Sure.
So I did not have somebody very close to me who was in that group of people that it could kill. I mean, granted, you don't know.
Right. But
it wasn't all that.
Statistically.
Right. So I was kind of, poo-poo about it. Did get the vaccine, mostly because we were traveling and you were kind of supposed to.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really feel strongly one way about it or the other. I was like, well, if I got to do it, I got to do it. But yeah, I did not have a lot of compassion, and I also did not have a lot of fear. The only thing that bothered me a lot when it first broke out and all of that was the way it changed lifestyles. I was not afraid of the disease. But I was afraid of how people would react to it.
Sure.
And, one time I went to the grocery store and the shelves were bare and it was scary.
It was. Yeah.
It was real. That was the one time I came home and I was crying, and Todd's like, what is it? I'm like, it was scary out there. And he's like, you're scared of getting sick? I'm like, no, I'm scared of our lives irrevocably changing. Well, it was very scary.
And I think a lot of pushback was that, and I'm extroverted, it's like, no, you need to be at home now. And that's scary.
Yes.
And I think too, especially in the beginning, everyone had in their mind that this is just the way the world is now. Actually, I'm pretty sure you could Google an article and it's like, hugging will never exist again in the world.
Which was ridiculous.
Yes, I
agree. People bounce back and evolve and change. But yeah, it was very scary there for a while. But back to the platinum rule. Obviously, you cannot practice a blanket platinum rule here because everybody is so different. But you can do it with the people in your life. So when I got sick, I tested. I didn't go to work the next morning, and I waited to test, which is, this is the first time I've ever tested for COVID. I mean, I know people who, get a little itch on their face and take 10 tests.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I was not a tester. I had never tested for COVID. But I was getting the symptoms and then woke up the next day and was full-blown sick. And so was my husband. Didn't go to work. I mean, I couldn't. I was sick.
Right.
But then I tested and knew once I did and tested positive, which I don't like to work from home. My husband and I kind of have a shared office area, and it just doesn't work well. It doesn't work well at all. And during the whole COVID, when everybody was working from home, I still came to the office and brought my daughter to the office. We were the only two here, but we came to the office every day. I never worked from home. But knowing that once I got sick, I really tried to put that platinum rule in place. And I was like, I need to be honest, I need to be open, and I need to realize that there are people at the office who do not want me there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And I had to practice it. It's like, I would have wanted to go back sooner. I thought it was okay, but it didn't matter what I thought. There was several people at the office that weren't okay with it. And so I tried to really put that platinum rule into place. Now, it didn't end up being that big of a deal because I really did feel like crap for quite a long time. So it's easy to
stay home, right?
So staying, even with a sick husband and contractors in the house, it was nice to know I could go take a nap. For whatever reason, I started napping on the deck.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's weird. It's loud out there. It's
but was it warm?
Well, yeah, it's summer.
Is that nice?
Yeah.
So maybe
but I've never been an outdoor sleeper. I don't know. Anyway.
I think you're going to fall asleep anywhere.
Yeah. But being at home like that, to know I could go nap whenever I wanted to. I didn't have to get ready. Mm-hmm. Nobody was going to talk to me because I really wasn't in the mood. Was okay. But in the beginning, you know, when I started, I was like, okay, I tested negative. And another person in our office is like, you might as well plan not to come in until the end of next week. I'm like, what? My first was a really big pushback. What? No, as soon as I test negative, I can come in.
Right.
And then they're like, well, you have to test negative twice and then wear a mask when you come. I'm just like, well, then I'm just not going to.
Boom.
And I didn't. I stayed at home. It ended up being fine. But I really had to do that. Okay, I am pretty extreme when it comes to me. It'll all be fine. But putting that platinum rule into place and realizing how others think of it is very important.
I like that angle because I guess when we first started this conversation on that, I was thinking more how you treat somebody that has COVID.
Oh, okay,
but your mindset was I need the platinum rule for everyone else.
Yes.
As having COVID. Yes. So both ways, but of course you have that personal experience going on right now. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
And before I got it, my way to treat people with COVID, I didn't give a shit. I mean, I wouldn't go lick them if they had COVID, but it's the same way I've always been about sickness.
Yes.
And it's the way I raised my daughter. So I remember very clearly my daughter's got a hell of an immune system. And I really think a lot of it was because I never worried about it. She'd drop food on the floor. I'd tell her to eat it.
Yep, me too.
Somebody was sick. I didn't have her avoid it.
Nope.
And I remember she, when she was little, she was the babysitter was one of my friends. Mm. And she had 3 boys. And she was the ultra hand sanitizer. One person has a sniffle. She's not going to take her kids anywhere near them. And so she would be like, hey, Carson has a cold. If you don't want to bring I'm like, oh, I'm bringing her.
We're already at the door.
and I remember very clearly one day, she's like, Delaney never gets sick. She's like, my boys are sick all the time and I don't know why. And I'm just like, you really don't know why?
Could you screw them?
You don't know why?
Right.
So I've always been really laissez-faire. You know, I don't ever get the flu shot. I don't ever, and I rarely get sick. And I'm not saying the two necessarily, one led to the other, but
The running joke in our family is there was one year all 3 girls got the flu shot and I didn't. And all 3 girls later on got the flu and I
you didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I've never, vaccines,
I'm like hit and miss.
I tend to avoid them.
If I have to go get a prescription at Walgreens and there's no line, I'll be like, you got a flu shot? They're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, let's do this because it's just super convenient.
See, and to me, it's like I would rather just get it and
be done.
And be done with it.
Yeah.
And it's more natural to me. You don't know what's in those things.
Well, you are granola.
I'm crunchy granola, and I can be a little conspiracy theory too.
Oh, yeah.
So all of those, why chance it? Just get the, I didn't give Delaney the chickenpox vaccine. It's like, just get it. Just get it and get it over with.
We're not going to go down that conversation.
But anyway, you're right.
Yeah, maybe we'll finally get comments on our podcast.
Yeah, some hate mail will be coming my direction. They'll be like, you deserved it. I hope you die. But yeah, it did help me have more compassion. Now, to be around other people who have it now, I mean, there was a little bit of me that got scared. It's like, I don't want this again.
Sure.
This was awful. This ruined my life for 2 weeks. And it's still, I'm still struggling. It really got me. I'm still struggling. But I know I will get back to the point because I'm just that sort, like I said before, I would never have given up the last 2 years where I lived my life. I was with the people I loved. I kept doing all of it. I would take 2 weeks of sickness.
Sure.
To live that 2 years of life.
Yep.
That's okay. I'm not going to say, oh, I can't believe that I put myself out there. Now look, the world's coming. No, I got sick. It sucked.
It's part
Life goes on, and I will continue to go out and brave the wild once I feel good again. But yeah, being around other people that are sick, I'm like, okay, well now I've got better immunity. So yeah, I'll still do it.
Let's do this.
I don't care. I don't care if you're sick, but everybody does not think like that.
No.
And so I've also been very honest with people. Hey, I've tested negative. It was this long ago, and leave it up to them and not be upset if other people, okay, I'd really rather not come over to your house for dinner. I'd really rather not meet you for drinks.
Yep.
And be okay with it. So
it's funny you say that. This was just a few months ago. But we all know I'm Catholic, and at Catholic church, you do the peace be with you and you shake hands. Mm-hmm. And that got kibosh a long time ago when COVID started. But it's coming back. It's slowly coming back. And the people behind me, and I haven't really done the whole everybody around me thing, just usually my family. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I turned around and I went to go shake this lady's hand. And she just kind of did if you're watching the YouTube, you see the reaction. If you're just listening, then you didn't. But, and she did that. And my first reaction was well, F you too.
Yeah.
And then I had to sit there and platinum rule it in my head. I'm like, no, she's not comfortable.
Right.
There could be complication. Maybe she just doesn't like shaking hands. It has nothing to do with it.
Right.
And so it was weird that I feel I've been so open-minded this whole time. And for some reason, that's the one that got me.
Gotcha. You never know what's going to get you.
You don't. And it's never easy. But if you really just strive for the platinum rule, and not everyone does this, but I reflected on it. And I'm like, no, Brandon, you can calm your little butt down.
Yeah.
She just isn't comfortable. That's fine.
That's fine.
That is fine.
Probably nothing to do with you.
I'm sure it was everything.
I probably hated you. I can see why. I can probably smelled. So the next point I want to bring up is excuses versus reasons, and using COVID as an excuse versus a reason. And the reason the difference, obviously a reason refers to a cause or an explanation. An excuse is a type of reason that specifically justifies or defends a fault.
Ooh,
you did something wrong and you're trying to explain it away, but you might as well just own up to it. So a reason I would say is if I choose not to go somewhere. Hey, I'm not going to come to your networking event. I'm not feeling all that great. I don't want, even though I'm negative and I can't spread it right now, people get nervous when they hear someone who sounds like I sound right now,
Yes.
And so, I wouldn't want to ruin somebody's group or event because people are like, what's going on with her?
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is a reason. Or I've fallen behind on a couple of my blogs. Okay. So I talk to the people and be like, I'm really sorry this is late. I've been out with COVID. I will catch up and, you'll get 2 blogs this week.
Instead.
So those are reasons. Excuses would be if I sent a crappy blog out and they came back and said, this really sucked and there was mistakes all over. Oh, COVID brain, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
That would be an excuse.
Fault, right? Because you had the fault. And they're like, oh, well, it's COVID though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if I'm bitchy or an asshole, and I thought about that before I came back to work too. I was like, I could probably go back today, but number 1, I'd have to wear a mask, which would make me bitchy because I hate that. And number 2, I'm just not quite with it. I'm not going to be nice to people. I'm not going to be fun to be around. So my reason for not going into work were those things. If I would have come into work and snapped at people and just been an overall miserable person and then be like, oh, still feeling bad because of COVID, that's an excuse.
Okay.
So, having the reason, I think, and telling people, and that's kind of a proactive, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that because of this, I want to give you the opportunity, is good.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is good. Using it as an excuse, to me, that sucks.
Yeah.
That is a withdrawal.
Yeah. Yep.
Because excuses you can use them all over. And my daughter is the queen of excuses, and they're always bad excuses because she is very. I'm sure you know that you've been around her quite a bit. She's very linear thinking, so when she's on one track, she cannot get on another track. So if she thinks something's going to be the way it is, she won't look around, and she's a terrible problem solver. And then she makes excuses. So as an example, it's a little off track, but I think it's a good excuse
what we do here
versus reason. She gets into the car. Mom, my throat hurts and I'm super thirsty. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I don't have a water bottle. And I was like, okay. She's like, do we have any at home? And I'm like, did you look? You're 15 years old. You lived in the house granted the kitchen's kind of torn apart right now, but did you look? And I was like, I'm sure there's some water bottles in the house. Well, I couldn't find any, which she had not looked. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, why don't you just get water from the vending machine at school? They don't have it. I'm like, what? I don't know if they have it. She changes her excuse too. Once I call her, I don't know if they have it. I'm like, you've been in that school for over a year. You're on your second year there. I've been in your school twice and I can tell you exactly where the vending machines are. And then she's like, I don't think they have water, just snacks. Oh my God, it just kept getting worse and worse. I was like, did you look? No, I've seen it. They have water. Oh, it kept going.
Oh.
I don't have any money. Well, you do have money. You have a job. They pay you in tips. Oh, you have cash.
Yeah.
And then I don't have money in my backpack.
Put money in your backpack. So I hope you learn from this then.
But she doesn't. But
That's a list.
It just keeps going. And that's how she, when she's not, she won't just own up to it. You're right. I need to do this.
Yep.
It's just excuse, and it's maddening. And so I came home and I was talking to Todd about it, and we both know that this is the way she's wired. Mm-hmm. She's just wired a little bit differently. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. I'm like, do I help her problem solve? Do I solve the problem for her, which I tend to do?
Me too.
Which is bad.
Yep.
Or do I just let her go? And I was like, because you know that if I don't solve this problem for her, and it's between her problem solving and finding water or going thirsty, he's like, she's going to go thirsty. I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to kill her.
Right.
So.
No, right.
But just a little aside on excuses, that's how it's a lot of the times it's just you've done something stupid, you've not problem solved, or you've hurt whatever you've done. You've made a mistake and you know it.
Yep.
And you're just blaming it on anything that you can.
Like anything.
And COVID is a super, super, super easy thing. And I've heard myself saying, oh, COVID brain. I was late picking up Delaney from school, which was definitely, number one, I was working from home, which I am not at all used to.
Yep, done that.
I didn't really know what day it was because everything kind of bled into, and I had it in my head because she gets out of school at 1:40 on Fridays. It was not a Friday.
Oh.
But she gets out at 3:20 normally, but I had 3:40 in my head. I confused them.
Yeah.
And I was late. And I did use that. I was like, COVID brain, sorry. I did use that with her, but I think I've earned some excuses with her.
If you're in like the month of COVID too.
Well, and also she uses so many excuses with her.
That's fine.
Okay, that's not fair. But I have used the whole COVID brain a couple of times. Mm-hmm. But in the case of work, and I didn't write some blogs during that time and send out crappy work because I knew it would be.
Right.
So I would rather give the reason for not sending the blog than send something subpar and then blame COVID brain.
Sure.
So excuses versus reasons. Okay. Now, the next thing is getting back into the swing of things, which I'm attempting to do.
Still working on that one, right?
Still working on that one. So a couple of tips there is to take it easy, be easy on yourself. And this is a lot of the radiating outward. You got to take care of yourself first.
Right.
And especially if you've got other people in your family who are sick, that can be super difficult. So I still wanted to take care of Todd, even though I just didn't feel like, and I did a couple of things that I probably should have just not done it.
Yeah.
I went to CVS to get ibuprofen that we really didn't need to get because I wanted to take care of him. I felt bad that I couldn't take care of him, but I needed to take care of myself.
Right.
And so I think it's that radiating out and let yourself feel how you feel. I mean, that was a big thing with me because I normally bounce back so quickly from being sick. I mean, I'm sick and then I'm fine.
Right.
And I was expecting that here. It was like, oh, I'm starting to feel better. Tomorrow I'm going to be absolutely fine. And I wake up, I'm like, I'm not. I feel the same. But I try to act like I was.
Right.
But I mean, it just kicked my butt. And I was like, I'm going to be fine today. And then I was like, okay, I had an hour of activity and now I need a nap. Or, I'm just not thinking correctly, or I don't have the energy to do this or this. I think it's be kind to yourself and realize your track is not going to be the same as other people's.
That's true.
Or it can be. But be kind to yourself and do that radiate outward, because if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of other people.
So I got a metaphor.
Okay.
This is the air on an airplane, right? And it never clicked, and then somebody explained it, and for some reason then it clicked. But if you don't put your air on first, you could actually die while you're trying to save your child. Versus you are now fully able to save them, and you can put their air on now.
Absolutely. Yep. And ask for help. It's okay.
We're really good at that, aren't we? Aren't you and I really good at asking for help?
I definitely. But it's okay to say, I can't do this on my own right now, or can we order out instead of me cooking? Sure. Or can you, Kendall, can you help me with this blog that I normally write? It's okay. Asking for help is okay. Showing vulnerability is okay. All of that is okay.
And it will help you get better sooner.
Yes.
If you're letting other people help you.
And then you don't have to make an excuse that you did something poorly.
That's
you didn't ask for help. So I always like to, when something not so good happens to me, and gotta say this was not so good, a whole lot of not so good, to try and learn something from it.
Okay.
So what can you learn from being sick? The first we kind of already talked about, compassion. Until you've gone through something, it's really, really hard to have compassion for somebody who's going through it. So, depression. If you've never gone through any sort of depression, it can be really difficult to have compassion for somebody who has. And I have a lot more compassion now for people who have gone through COVID.
Sure. I think death in the family too. Like my wife has lost both of her parents, and I still reflect to this day. I can't, of course, early on in the relationship, I tried to fix it, right?
Of course.
Nothing you're going to fix there. But I can't relate to her feelings because both my parents are still alive. And I pray that she finds the compassion when mine die, because for her, she does know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I have this fear that she's going to be like, well, buck up, buckaroo, because I've been living my life. And I'm going to want that moment of, well, I'm back where you were in 20 whatever.
Right. Yep. And keeping that compassion too. I mean, a month from now, hopefully I will be feeling 100% Angie, and I don't want to lose that because you can lose perspective. Right now, I still have a lot of compassion because I still feel like crap.
Right.
But, and for people who, there are people who are still suffering symptoms years after having it.
Early on, and the guy still doesn't have his taste or smell. Yeah. And you got out of the early days. I'm like, that stinks.
Yeah. So keeping that compassion, realizing we're not as strong as we think we are. I think, just like I had said before, I got a great immune system. Nothing's going to bring me down. I'm not going to that's ridiculous. Anything can bring anyone down at any time.
That's right.
So, realizing that no, we're not Superman, Superwoman. It can happen to anyone. We're not invulnerable.
That's right.
We're not invincible. Invincible is the word I was looking for.
Invulnerable a word?
I'm really not sure. I don't think so.
Is that another double negative?
It sounds like it, yeah. I have to look it up now. I can't believe I don't know that. COVID brain.
I'm very not surprised at all. I don't know it.
Invincible is definitely a word.
We are not.
And that was actually the word I was looking for. So, and then realizing sometimes sickness is your body's way of telling you to slow down.
Yeah.
Stop trying to do so much. Stop running yourself ragged. Slow down. Take care of yourself. Take a breath. Sometimes you need smack down to get that message.
That specific example is one of the few things that frustrate me about the word hustle today. Because
the hustle culture.
Yes, because you do have to slow down. You do have to reflect back. And I promise, Gary Vee and who's the other guy wrote the X Factor, the 10X rule. Why can't I think of his name? It's not important for the example. George, whatever. I guarantee you they have, well, I know for a fact Gary Vee is like, I don't talk about my family, but when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. Right. Boom. And entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting a business and you're doing everything, you never give yourself that break, that rest.
And it's also, so I think we should do a whole show about the myth of the hustle culture.
I think we should.
So stay tuned for that one.
Write that down, someone.
Write that down. And then the last thing is let it break up your routine or help you form new habits. So I was so anti-working from home. I mean, the people at work would make fun of me. They'd be like, you must really hate Todd. You never want to be there. And I'm like, no, that's not it at all. We're not set up to work. I don't get good work done. I get interrupted. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that if I am home and Todd is home, I want to take care of him. Mm. So me working from home, I would have been like, okay, it's almost lunchtime. I better make sure he got fed. And he doesn't expect me to do that. That's in my head. But I was like, I have to physically get away so that I can focus on my work. So that was a lot of the reasons why I kept coming into the office. But being home like that, it worked out. Yeah. Even with both of us, I mean, it helped, I guess, that both of us were sick because I would get my shit together enough that I could go work in the office and he didn't.
Right.
So I had the space. So it was a little bit different, but I was like, hey, I kind of like this. It would be okay if I worked from home one day a week, or if the world did not come crashing down. And sometimes, I really get it into my head that this is the way things have to be and this is the way it is. And sometimes it takes, a circumstance that I could not control to break that habit down and realize, no, it's okay if you do this. So I think being open to that and realizing that even though something bad has happened and it changed your lifestyle for a while, you could take some lessons from it mm-hmm. and help you evolve.
And I am enjoying seeing the reverse of that because I feel there were a lot of people that were like, I never want to work at home. And then they got to work at home and they're like, I'm never going to go back to the office. Yeah. And the corporation's like, no, you're going to come back. Yeah. This is great. Now we have a hybrid model, but you're still coming. Right. Well, and I was actually thinking about doing the show on the last one. I'm going to do it down the road. But interpersonal energy, camaraderie, all of those things build a culture.
Yes.
And so I kind of felt bad for the businesses that were just getting going and then COVID, sent everybody home.
Oh, yeah.
Because you lose this camaraderie that you may have. And now that I am more in an office setting than I was even before with my last career, I friggin' love it.
Yeah.
Like I am the guy that's going to stop around and say good morning to everybody because that's who I am. And I didn't realize that until it was taken away. And you better believe it. I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can work from home. This is no problem. And then I get a little taste of what I used to know. And I'm like, no, I know why I like this now.
Absolutely. So there you have it, how to continue to give engagement equity to yourself and to others when you get sick, whether that's COVID or something else. Hopefully you've all learned something from this. I'm starting to lose my voice, so we gotta wrap this up. I'm going downhill. But thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.